Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning in today. We have a person that's going to make an impact on your life. He is the founder and CEO of Rich Brands and has over 44 years of experience defining and launching brands and then marketing them. As a certified global branding consultant with partners worldwide, he has defined brands in their language for companies impacting hundreds of industries. So are you ready to get that rocket fuel for your brand? This gentleman, he's going to propel us into another dimension, right? And we had a lot of information to talk about, behind the scenes. It's so much to impact, when he shares his contact information. Make sure you visit him, contact him, because I'm pretty sure it's going to change something in your life. I'll bring none other to you than Rich Kozak. Rich, thank you very much for coming on today.
Maurice, it's really a delight. I believe what each listener here today is going to be a blessing, not only for whatever business that they're in now or choose to be in, but also to their life. This is not about branding. It maybe sounds like it is, but it's about we all get to make the most significant impact on the world through the gifts we've been given. And how do we do that in a way that's really authentic? So this is going to be fun, and it's probably going to be something you've never heard before. So stay tuned.
So you talk about branding. You brought up branding. So let's understand, what is the definition of branding? Because sometimes we get that confused.
Thank you. It's a great place to start, and it's very simple. Listen tight. And I'm going to speak to you as an individual. Your brand is a perception. That's it. Your brand, if you are in business for yourself, you're a solopreneur, you have a company, your brand, it's a perception. But here's the surprise. It's not your perception. See, you can say, well, and tell me all about your brand, but that's not your brand. Your brand is the perception of it in other people's eyes. That's the brand. So branding is all those things that we as individuals or businesses get to do that shapes a consistent and magnetic perception that attracts exactly those people whose lives we want to touch. It's not difficult. It just is a process, but most people don't know it's a process. They don't know its steps. They think it's something, you need a guru for, or it's some crazy angle on creativity, or it's an angle, or it's a good phrase, or a snazzy logo, or a superhero costume. It's not. If you are a person who cares about making an impact on other people's lives through what you do, I don't care what you do. You could integrate software. You could be a coach. You could be an accountant. You could, help people overcome being, having a difficult childhood. You could do anything. It's, if you know that you can have an impact on others and you want to do that, the brand, the language gets to come from inside you, not from outside. It's from somebody slapping some brand image thingy on you. So there's a lot of hope here, and this is not something new. I've been doing this for 47 years. One of the few people who teach the process, the steps of what makes a brand come alive, whether it's you as an individual or an entity you create, or both, or a company. It's the same process, and it's just steps. So you can relax and breathe easy. The missing piece is clarity, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But thank you. A brand is a perception, but it's not your perception. You get to shape it. and you got to shape it consistently.
So here's the thing. Because sometimes we get caught up in what we see society is doing. Because I think you kind of touched on that a little bit, how other people are perceiving us. And sometimes we see what society is doing, what our community is doing. We want to duplicate and replicate what they're doing to make the money, quote unquote, right? So the perception is that these people are doing it. I want to repeat it. But I can lose myself in that, right? So how do I clarify who I am so that way that perception is really authentically me and not someone else?
Wow, Maurice. I wish you were the host for every podcast I was on. That's a perfect question. How do I know who I am? I will tell you that the clarity about, hey, I do this and I do this and I do this, like which one is my brand, or I'm not really sure what to make my brand, or I want to leave my corporate job and go do something I love, but I'm not sure, that how do I say who I am and what I do? It's one of the most common questions that I hear, not only from individuals, but from big companies.
Mm-hmm.
It usually sounds like this. We need better ways to say what we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it sounds like. I need better ways to say what I do. It's, people don't get it, or I don't get credit for what makes me outstanding. Even big companies, we need better ways to say what we do. It's a positioning, and it's a language thing.
Right.
So let's take your question head on. How do I know better who I am so that I can really step authentically into something? And I'm going to add the word joy to your question. It brings me joy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, I'm speaking to you personally, who's ever listening. If you were my client, I would not allow you to do anything that doesn't bring you joy. Even when we have defined and languaged a brand and we start asking ourselves which marketing elements are necessary to launch the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask, okay, envision thriving. What do you see yourself doing? If they start mentioning things like, well, I want to be a speaker. Wait a minute. You don't want to be a speaker. You told me you don't want to speak. Yeah, I don't really want to. Okay, then don't. Okay. Yeah, it's like, don't force yourself to do things that don't bring you joy. Just because you see other people, you don't have to do anything. So let's start here. For you to find the most joy, we all get to make the most significant impacts on the world we touch with the gifts we've been given. And the process of defining and languaging who you are and how you say that and what you do and creating a brand that's consistent is a part of that that's really, really helpful. If you ask your heart first, hey, heart, whom do I really want to impact? Seriously. I know that single mom with this in her 40s with a special needs child with autism, she's struggling, not knowing what will happen to her child if something happens to her. It's like, oh my God, I know I can help her, and I really want to. Is it the couple that just got married? Is it someone who's preparing for retirement? Somebody that has a history of being sexually abused as a child, and they can't even set goals in their lives because the unconscious mind is holding them back. Or you've studied NLP and you know that people's limited beliefs are shaping their experience. It's like, I don't whatever you ask your heart. Whom do I really want to impact? And pick one. Just ask your heart for one. And kind of paint that picture of who that is. You can ask your heart for another one. It's possible. I see it every day where people say, well, I really can help professionals, like people that are in a profession and they have, nose to the grindstone. They've been doing this a long time, but there's dimensions of their lives that are missing. Could be relationships, could be faith, could be they took their eyes off the ball when they focused on their career, because I'm helping one of my clients write a book right now about 7 things to not interrupt. We all interrupt things. Sometimes we interrupt our integrity. Sometimes we interrupt our relationships because we're working on something else.
Right.
So just ask yourself for one, whom do I really clearly see impacting? And kind of, paint that picture of that person and then write down the impacts. Now, I'm not kidding.
Mm-hmm.
So impacts are, making impacts adds joy to life. And everyone's in a different place with their faith. I will just say from my own perspective, I used to get home late from the agency and bend down next to my kids' beds and say, hey, let's have a quick prayer. Lord, thank you for teaching us. We're here for two reasons. One is to share love, and the other is to praise God. And everything else is man-made. Amen. Good night. Go back to sleep, boys. It's like, so that's who's talking to you. That I believe those are those two things. We don't get those right. We got to go back to number one, share love. So whether it's, you're an organic chef like I am and you cook for people and cooking is love, or whether you're a coach of some kind and you help people release the weight of an unhealthy life or whatever it is, that's your kind of love. Impacting others' lives, giving, sharing is love. And that's job one. So ask your heart, whom do I really know I can impact in some way? And what are those impacts? It's the impacts graduate. So they go from you help a person see themselves differently. Of course, that's in their head, or see the world differently. And then maybe you teach them a mindset. It's still in their head. Nothing happened yet. But then you teach them a skill set. And now they practice the skill set. And now they get more results. Every one of those is a higher level impact. What if they take the results and they contribute, or they give back to others? What if they become a giver in the community? What if they become a giver in the world? What if they take what you've taught them, what came through your work, and they share it with others? And it's like there are these levels of impact. So every time you ask yourself, hey, heart, give me a person that I know I clearly want to impact, and think about those impacts. Here's what happens. So you might be sitting in a corporate job, or you might have already left, or you might be saying, wow, I've been a housewife and I want a career, whatever it is.
Right.
It doesn't matter. You start there. What you say and how you say what you do can always be congruent with those impacts. And I'll say it in my branding language. We define in language brands to be the brands a person must become to make the impacts that they clearly see making already in their mind's eye when they thrive. There are certain characteristics that they must be. There are certain categories of expertise they must be known for. We ask those questions in order to make the impacts. And then we define the brand they must become to make the impacts. And everything they say and everything they do aligns. That is clarity. I'm telling you, it's a foundation of clarity that is missing. Most people don't realize, and that's the way to get it. So thank you, Maurice, for asking that question. Focus on where you clearly see you can make an impact. Imagine what it looks like and what you're doing when it's thriving. Everything you do, everything you say is working.
Right.
What are you doing? That's the picture. And when it comes from your heart, chances are God put it there.
So here's my question. I do have a question, because you keep referencing heart, right? Something that's in your heart. Yeah. Well, sometimes we may determine something that's maybe in our heart by something that we just pretty good at. Sometimes there can be there could be a discrepancy there. Just because we're good at it doesn't necessarily mean that it's in our heart, right? We might just be blessed in that gift or whatever it might be. So how would you encourage someone to find out if that's something that's really in their heart, where it really brings them joy, versus something that say, you know what, you're pretty good at writing, let's say, a story, right? You're pretty good at writing stories. You've been able to be paid for it, but how would I know that 2 years down the line I won't be tired of it? Because sometimes you don't mind not getting paid for it sometimes. So how would you help someone to differentiate, yes, I'm good at this, but it's actually in my heart?
That is You're good, man. Thank you. That's a great question. So I'm going to answer this question by going backwards on the timeline, and I'll explain exactly what I'm doing. So I created a curriculum about 20 years ago called Empowered Youth Day.
Mm-hmm.
I had become enamored and fallen in love with self-development and the language of it is what it is, and what's in your mind is in your life, and what you focus on expands, and all that stuff that you get when you start doing self-development, when you leave your addictive agency job and work on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, wow, if I'd have had this as a teenager, and I created this curriculum that was a one-day curriculum called Empowered Youth Day that to teach 13 to 18-year-olds some of these life lessons that they could use, like right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who's at your mentor table? You can put them there, you can take them away. You know, and so the opening of that day, and here's part of the answer. The opening of that day, picture a room full of 100 teenagers on the screen, images of all these different pieces of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people like math, some people like horses, some people like water, some people like sports, some people like relationships, some people like spirituality. It's like all these pieces of things on the screen, water skiing and and skydiving and playing chess and riding on boats, whatever. The purpose of that was many of those teenagers might never have seen some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's a very life thing. You see something and you get a yearning, like, Here's a specific.
Mm-hmm.
Two of my sons, I have two sons, they're both Eagle Scouts, and I know that when you become an Eagle Scout, you get letters if you ask for them.
Mm-hmm.
One of the letters is from Steven Spielberg, and Steven Spielberg says, I want you to know that when I was a Boy Scout,
Mm-hmm.
I saw and I went through the list of merit badges
Mm-hmm.
that I could do. I saw filmmaking, and I thought, Steven Spielberg. Okay, so that's a Steven Spielberg moment. You can have a Steven Spielberg moment when so you get to the answer to the question is a yearning may become a life passion, but a yearning might just be like my water ski yearning. I was backpacking in Italy at 24 on the island of Elba. Somebody woke me up. I was sleeping under a boat on the beach, and they said, Rika, and they told me there was water skiing. And I'm like, what? I'd never water skied before. I spent a lot of my money. I must have water skied 15 times, in the next 2 or 3 days. That was it. I'm not a professional water skier. I just got into it and like, wow, this is so cool. But it didn't become a life thing. It just became another, experiential, notch on the belt in a story. But give yourself the grace of following a yearning and allowing it to take you where it will. It may become a life passion. So how do you tell the difference between something that will really bring you joy in the long run and just maybe satisfies a curiosity or a sense of adventure in the moment? I don't know. You'll know when you know.
Right.
God moves in mysterious ways. The paths that we go through in life to prepare us for what we're made for sometimes are circuitous. I've had to say to my own sons, mark my words, what you're going through is preparing you for greatness. As much as I hate this, and as much as I'm telling you, you've got to go through what you're going through to be prepared, because you have greatness in you and you're going to step into it. So get through this quick, will you please? Yeah.
I can understand that. And so the reason why I asked that question, because again, we're talking about the perception, right? There's a perception that, hey, we're great at this. This must be our calling, right? We're great at this. This must be what I have a passion for, or this is what I'm meant to do. And a lot of times we get blinded by that. So that's why I was asking that question, because I just want to make sure that the listeners understand that, hey, you know what? Just because you're great at that does not necessarily mean that's going to bring you joy. That's not for the long term. As you stated, hey, it might be for the moment. It's for the season. That's it.
Exactly. There's another little test. It's called the I lost track of time test.
Mm-hmm.
It goes like this. When you're doing something that you enjoy so much, you totally lose track of time. That's one of the ways that God tells us maybe that's what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, so keep an eye out for that test too.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And a lot of times we don't understand what that is. So I just want to make sure that as we're talking about, clarity, understanding who we are and what we're trying to accomplish and how we're trying to make an impact. I think sometimes we get caught up in looking at someone else or hearing what someone else is saying to us and not looking deeper within ourselves. So
I will say I see that copycat behavior, and it's not serving people, particularly in the area of, well, there's lots of, but let's take social media.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody does it. Oh, and it kind of became that kind of like, well, you have to do it, and you need more likes, but wait a minute. Then there's Dan Kennedy, who wrote who's one of the old curmudgeons of direct marketing. And he wrote a book with Kim Walsh Phillips about using social media for direct marketing to make money. And I can't do his voice very well, but I'm going to give it a shot. This is Dan Kennedy. I hate social media. It's a scourge on humanity. I think that's what he said. Yeah. But everybody's there, so you got to be there. But if you're going to do it for dollars. Don't do it for likes. Okay, so just because everybody's doing it doesn't mean you should do it or have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You must get good coaching and good guidance and be discerning about why you're doing it. It's important to have the objectives. It's important to have, the purpose. So if you can always ask yourself, for what purpose? That's a good thing, because it'll help center you and bring you back. Is this related? Will this give me the results I want?
Mm-hmm.
Is it I'm doing this to build a skill, or I'm doing this because I think I have to do it? It's like ask for, literally keep focusing on for what purpose. And if you aren't familiar enough with a skill or a area of activity or an area of expertise or an area of information, a category of expertise, and you want to be more familiar, find someone. This is from Empowered Youth Day. Okay? It's called the mentor question. It goes like this. If I said to you, Maurice, I love what you do. I want to do what you do. Will you mentor me? I taught that question to 13 to 18-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
The worst that can happen is somebody goes, I only have time right now. Okay. And you just say, next.
Right.
You find somebody else and you say, Maurice, I love what you do. I want to do what you do. Will you mentor me? You will have people at your mentor table who have experience, who have been successful doing what you think you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you were going to, I'll pick a nasty one here. Sorry. Okay. The world of merchant service, selling credit card processing. Everybody responds to you as if you're the devil when you walk in and say, "Hi, get you a better rate." And they go, "Ah!"
Right.
Okay,
right.
I hate that. All right. So let's say you felt you wanted to do that. You heard it was a great way to make residual income, and you find someone who's very successful at it, and you ask them the mentor question. And if they say yes, you listen tight, and they'll say, you have to do it this is the way that's worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you have to do. If you see signs that you have to interrupt your integrity in order to do that job, if you see signs that you have to interrupt your values to do that job, if you see signs that you have to do things that not only don't bring you joy, but are incongruent with your heart, you're getting the pay attention.
Right.
Okay. Right. That's helpful. Seriously.
Yeah.
All you have to do is ask.
So Rich, I thank you for coming on today. So where can people ask you that question? Can you be their mentor? Can you be their coach? Where can they find you and get that information?
I'm really glad you asked that question. Many people say to me, wow, 47 years, you should be like on a yacht or on a beach. I'm on Zoom, okay? So literally, you can have a half an hour of my time and talk to me right now. You go on calendly.com/richbrands, calendly.com/richbrands, and talk to me about you. Tell me about you. Right, this is where I am. I'm not going to do anything. You can get on my calendar. There's no charge for that. I keep doing that, and I will keep doing that until there's a reason that I can't. So do that. Now, there's a website, richbrands.org. You just go to richbrands.org. It offers you free videos about branding. It offers you 30 minutes on my calendar. It says we have a half day every month. I want you in that half day, because that half day, it's either a Thursday or a Saturday. It's 8 to noon. It will reshape. It will reset how you understand the idea of your brand, defining the language in a brand that is authentically you, what it means when you actually do it right, what happens, and what happens when you don't. It's called branding you with impact. Branding you with impact. And we do that every month because there are millions of people who are in business for themselves, who don't feel they have the branding right, don't feel they know. There are many people that have been in business for 20, 30 years, and they want to take it to a higher level, but they don't know how to do that, and they don't want to get it wrong because they have a lot of investment. Or people who have done something for 20 or 30 years, and they're done with that. They just resigned, and now they want to do what they love, and they know they need a brand, but they don't want to get it wrong because they're already in their 40s or their 50s or their 60s. Just look me up.
Cool.
Get into that half day, okay? Branding you with impact. Right on richbrands.org. Just scroll down to a special half day event, or just get on my calendar. That's the easiest way. And I will listen with the ears of a trained neurolinguistics programming trainer. I don't train, I use it to listen. I will listen to your heart, and I'll share the same kind of thoughtful and relevant guidance with you about you that Maurice and I exchanged today.
Cool.
And I would be glad to. That's why I'm here. I get to do this work. It's a God blessing.
It most definitely is. Well, Rich, I thank you very much for coming on today. I appreciate the information that you've shared. Please, please, please go to his website. You'll be blessed. Trust me, you will be. Thanks, Rich. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Maurice. God bless, man.
Now, here's the thing. Before I let you go, though, I got to ask you my one question I ask all my guests. It's my would you rather question. Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
I'd flip the coin on that one.
You would?
I guess to fork in the road, because it's more biblical. There's a high road, low road. There's a narrow road. There's a wide path. I'd say the fork in the road, because it might be a little more obvious, and I would be less in control than I would be picking 3 doors.
Right.
I want it to be congruent with His will, not mine. So
nice.
I'll take the fork in the road. How's that?
That's cool. No, that's good. That's good. That's good. Rich, thank you very much for coming on today.
You're welcome.
And continue to listen to That Will Never Work podcast.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?